I'm taking this Dutch Golden Age masterpiece and turning it into a pixel art character sprite to uncover who is the young man with a skull. I'm creating a character and building a historically fantastical fictional world to discover the mystery behind the painting. Have you ever looked at an old master's painting and wondered, who is that guy? What's his story and how did he influence the world around him? What happens if there is no story? Let me take you on a journey of creation, or perhaps discovery. Frans Hals, oil on canvas, 92 by 81 centimeters. Title, Young Man with a Skull. Let's begin to draw. I start with a canvas size of 81 by 92 pixels as a little nod to the painting's original size. I find it nice to have a big canvas size when creating a character sprite. Just personal preference. Before we get too far, I would like to introduce you to one of my favorite paintings that I've had the fortune to see. I was walking through the National Gallery in London, right on Trafalgar Square. After admiring Nelson's column, I was perusing through the museum, and that's when I saw it. I stopped, and proceeded to walk away. I'm pretty sure I just kept going without thinking about it. But eventually, I returned to see what seemed like an insignificant painting as no one was around to admire it. And what I saw amazed me. Here, I am switching starting techniques from blocking out a character to basic line work first for the character, to turn brushstrokes into pixels. As I said earlier, I am not just drawing a pixel art sprite in this video. I'm creating a character. We don't know a lot about the original painting for reference for this new character. Let's start with what we do know. First, we need to address his origins. He's from the Netherlands between 1626 and 1628, right in the height of the Dutch Golden Age. Our young man here was often thought of as a portrayal of Shakespeare's Hamlet, with the skull of Yorick shown in Act 5, Scene 1. In the painting, we see his contemplating face as if he were questioning to be or not to be, as that is the question. Consequently, it was not to be. The artist Frans Hals probably had never heard of Hamlet in his lifetime, as we have no evidence that the play was translated into Dutch or performed on Dutch soil up to that point. What else can we infer from the origins of the painting to give us hints of what this character could be? The Dutch Golden Age was an extremely prosperous time for the Netherlands. They excelled in their economy growth and trading expertise, as well as art, giving us my favorite artist Rembrandt, along with scientific discoveries. The young man in the painting appears to be wealthy or part of the Dutch elite of the time. How did he get there? Name, Coenraad van Schedels. Born, 1608, Haarlem, the Netherlands. Died, 1640. The painting was worked on by Frans Hals from 1626 to 1628. Occupation, reputable economist, writer, and financial advisor. Back to the drawing, I'm now readjusting, and instead of having the drapes cover the lower body, I'm adding a robe underneath, which will add more readability to the character and allow for a hand to place the skull. Now we'll take a look at how it came together after I filled in the color. And add in the skull, because what's a classic fictional Renaissance character without his overly optimistic skull by his side? Name, Keith. Occupation, deceased. Now that we have a base for Coenraad, we can start the idle animation. I tried to heighten the contrast in the drapes by... But Mr. YouTube, his clothes are not a contemporary representation of the time it was painted. As you can see, this obviously would have been in vogue in the 16th century, not the 17th century. Anyone can tell that from the brilliant beret and dynamic drapery. Very astute, but this is an idealist recreation of the fancy fits from a few decades earlier, probably to show this was a fictional or historical figure. In the case of Coenraad, he dressed like this to invoke a sense of maturity and significance, even though he was still a young man, showing a part of his vain demeanor. His late father, a fair merchant in his own right, would have appreciated this nod to vintage times in the early Dutch Golden Age. His father had died in a shipwreck in the North Sea in 1625. By this time, the 17-year-old Koenraad began breaking into the lucrative trading game himself. Because of his growing up by the port, he got to know the insides of the incredible Dutch trading economy. The name Koenraad itself is very particular and fits in his story as well. Koen translates to valiant or brave, while Raad translates to advisor or counsel. As a financial advisor, Koenraad was bold in his market predictions and almost always seemed to be right. He made his fortune quite early on the Dutch market and proceeded to become a financial advisor to the big players on the market later in his life. He was well regarded in the Dutch community as a good judge of investments and finances. This all changed for him when the 1637 tulip mania crash caused a sensational disaster in Koenraad's life because, oh my goodness, it looks awful. But legs! We have legs now and pants, so that's exciting. This clears up a lot for the drawing, and I think this still shot looks much more driven to the painting now. I find it important to show that I make mistakes. Hours went into this little drawing that I had to cut out of the video because of extreme blunders. Everyone makes them, but rebounding and finishing what you start is crucial to being a creative of any kind. Let's try the idle animation process again, shall we? I'm hoping that we can get a more natural feel to the idle animation and try not to be overly wavy with the drapes. We are also starting with a little head bobble this time. Koenraad's personal life was quite intoxicating. His friends might have described him as amiable, intelligent, occasionally arrogant, funny, and quite vain. He had a very quick wit and reaction times with a certain charm to his speech. He loved attention to the point he sought it out as much as he could. He might flatter or insult anyone he wished, but had such a high standard for himself and what others saw, so he rarely did. He never took advice from anyone and always did what he thought was the right thing to do in the situation, taking in but ignoring all other opinions. At the same time, he loved to give advice to everyone about everything in their life. He would often comment on others' clothes and personal matters that really shouldn't concern him. Because he cared so much about his personal image, he would often spend days trying on outfits before he found the perfect one to wear to an important occasion. The tailors of the time loved and hated him because he bought expensive clothes, yet wasted days to make a single decision. He was often with a group of people and loved to associate himself with others as much as he could. He was a gambler in his trade with bold advisory choices, which defined his character as well. In his personal life, Koenraad often did not think of the consequences of his actions and did not take responsibility for his past decisions, which often got him into trouble. His vanity is a characteristic I want to emphasize in him, as he will learn to overcome it in due time by finding valued friends and facing his past demons. His path of self-reflection got me thinking about how I would implement this character in a story in an engaging way. When working in pixel art, the main thought you can't avoid is, how would this play in a video game? So what kind of video game would fit Koenraad and his skull friend? My first thought is some sort of economic simulation game of the Dutch trading prowess of the 1600s. I would totally play that game, especially if it has gorgeous pixel graphics. But I think that's the obvious answer here, so let's go a little different. What about some sort of mystery game, where Koenraad, as a financial advisor, stumbles upon a secret plot created by one of his employers? Armed with the endlessly joyful clips of Keith the Skull, and your extensive historical knowledge, you work your way through the Dutch Golden Age Amsterdam and Haarlem to solve the mystery and stop the plot while meeting a colorful cast of characters and profound self-discovery along the way. Coming this fall, early gameplay and fundraisers soon, wishlist on Steam now! Okay, I'm joking about the last part, but I actually think it's a pretty solid video game mockup. Let me know if you would play that game, and if you have a good name idea for it, comment below. I still have so much I would like to share about my new character, Koenraad van Schedels, and why he has a skull friend, the endlessly interesting economics of the Golden Age of the Netherlands, and so much more to draw to create this new world, and I'll be putting the whole process here on YouTube. If you would like to see more of Koenraad, consider subscribing to the channel. But alas, I am done with today's idle animation. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Lastly, I would like to bring us back to the original painting to compare and contrast.